Anybody on yet? I think I'm the only one on right now. That's okay. That's okay. Okay. I will speak in just a moment. We'll open up. We'll open up the conversation in just a second. Okay. All right. Who's on the chat? And who wants to try and start? Let's seriously, anybody go in the chat. Let's talk about geopolitics. Let's talk about Ukraine and Europe. I hope there's people on both sides of the aisle on this. I hope there's Republicans out there. Let's talk about reality for a second, because too many of you are busy. And when I say busy, when you're out on X and Twitter and talking with your friends and everybody, you're just thinking about this is pissing me off, because there are so many people polarized, and I'm a pretty polarizing person. Yeah, everybody's leaving. Nobody wants to actually have a conversation. They just want to shout their side and say F you, and I'm right and you're wrong, and that's the only way that it can be. If we have that kind of attitude, there's never going to be a resolution on the other side of the pond, you freaking idiots. So, I'm going to be direct, and I'm going to be confrontational, because nobody else wants to do it, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to say the things that nobody wants to actually admit. But there's 14 people in the chat watching. They're probably wondering, why is he all angry? Why is he yelling at the camera? Why is he doing all this? Well, say something in the chat. We can talk about it. Let's talk about Ukraine. Let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about Zelensky. Let's talk about NATO. Let's talk about Europe. I know a little bit about it. A little bit more than the average person. Be happy to answer questions. If you're just going to sit there in the chat to watch and have a good time, watch me be angry, I guess that's cool. But if you actually want to see this resolved, you actually want to take a stance and be a voice of reason, then say something. Go ahead and ask a question. Mike Hunt. What about Mike Hunt? Who? Okay, Zelensky, Trump, NATO. Who's Mike Hunt? Oh, I see what you did. You got me to say a bad thing. You're comic genius. Scarface gets his thing in the spotlight. No, you can leave. You can leave, Scarface. You are contributing nothing. Corey, I work from home. Where do you work? No, it's just pissing me off. It's pissing me off. I see it. I see news articles about it. People talk about it. It's just so incredibly convoluted by both sides. It is infuriating. And nobody wants to actually say what the reality of it is. They just want to say what they need, that what is going to get them the most attention. And it is just absolutely trying really hard not to lose my composure. But I see that we've lost everyone that was on here. Thanks, Scarface, for frickin' saying what you did. Oh, this is so stupid. Yeah. Oh, he said he wrote the name Mike Hunt. And of course, me being freaking riled up, I just read it off. And I had like 35 people in here. Nobody was saying anything in the chat. And yeah. No, say it fast, out loud, Corey. Say the name Mike Hunt, loud and fast. You'll figure it out pretty quick. So, anyways, aside from Corey, I know who Corey is. Yeah, it was great. It was a real proud moment of mine. Aside from Corey in the chat, the other 9 or so people that are in the chat, I really want someone that's like super hardcore on the right. Like, when I say right, I mean super hardcore, like GOP, Trump, Republican, and somebody super like on the left, pro Zelensky, because the reality is so much more difficult and so much more convoluted than just Trump and Zelensky. Like, it is stupid. You are a moron if you think it is that simple. Because it's not even close to as simple as you either support Trump or you support Zelensky. Oh, man. It is, most of it isn't, Corey. Most of it isn't. I mean, that's one approach. No, Scarface, it can't. You've got this entire group of people who are opposed to anything that President Trump says. Okay, President Trump could say 2 + 2 is 4. And there are people that are going to go out there and call him a racist because he said 2 + 2 is 4. Or they're going to say he's pro-war, or that he wants to, like, it's just stupid to have that kind of ideology. And there's people on the pro-Trump side that are going to say the same thing. That are going to be like Trump will say, like, 1 + 1 is 5. And they'll be like, this is the smartest, greatest man in the world. No, you in a long-term engagement, Corey, you are 100% right. Russia has more, they have more funding, they have more GDP, they can sustain longer than Ukraine can. In a long-term war, Ukraine cannot win. Even with all the backup in the world, whether it's us, whether it's all of Europe, it doesn't matter. Ukraine can't win that long-term engagement. That is 100% correct. And anyone who says otherwise is wrong. What is infuriating is that there are people out there, like, I'm going to read one of these posts from X. It is like, this is a prominent person on X. Where is it? Oh, man, follow me. Was it Tristan Snell? It might be Tristan Snell. Okay. All right. Here's what Tristan Snell has wrote. A peace proposal for Ukraine. 1. Russia and North Korea completely withdraw from all of Ukrainian territory. When he says Ukrainian territory, he's talking about what was Ukrainian territory prior to the war. And I'm guessing probably like pre-Crimean annexation. Ukraine will not give 1 inch of its soil to Russia. Russia will release all prisoners and kidnapped individuals. Russia will pay 100% of Ukraine's reconstruction. Okay, so let's talk about this. If we're looking for a peace solution, because we know that Ukraine can't last the whole war. They can't win. They can't beat Russia over time. Russia wins. Russia will inevitably win if they continue fighting. It does not matter how much we support them. All right? If only Ukraine is fighting and America stays out of it physically, if we're only providing support, Ukraine loses. Well, that doesn't help Ukraine, you dumb fuck. So, let's look at these peaceful proposals for Ukraine. Russia and North Korea completely withdraw from all Ukrainian territory. Well, that shit ain't happening. Ukraine will not give 1 inch of its soil to Russia. It already has. Russia's there. In war, when you take land, once you have established that it's yours, it's yours. That's the way wars work, bucko. Russia will release all prisoners and kidnapped individuals. That's the first thing that Tristan Snell has said in this thing. At Tristan Snell on X, by the way. That's the first thing that he said that makes any sense, that's even practical. Russia will release all prisoners and kidnapped individuals. Okay. So, that's them giving something up. What is Ukraine giving up? Are they going to do a full-on prisoner exchange? That seems fair. Is that not fair? I mean, that's what we did in World War II. We did prisoner exchanges. Yeah, we exchanged prisoners with Nazis. Weird, huh? Are we saying that like the Ukraine shouldn't do the same thing that we did? That's weird. Russia will pay 100% of Ukraine's reconstruction. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Under what obligation do they have to do that? You did this and it was mean and wrong. You should feel bad. They don't care. They literally are there trying to take over the country. You think they give 2 shits about paying for the damage that they caused? You are an idiot. Holy cow. All right? The treaty that was signed 30 years ago where Ukraine gave up their nukes, all right? They can't get their nukes back. If Russia hears that they're getting nukes back, guess what Russia's going to do? They're going to nuke Ukraine. Ukraine won't even get to see those nukes. They're going to be gone. And what's anybody going to say? You nuke Ukraine. Well, Ukraine was going to get nukes, and we know that they're going to use them because they want us dead. Fair enough. It's a defensive measure. That's war. I'm not saying it's right, but it's war. It's the way that it would work. Russia's attacking, is Russia indiscriminately attacking civilian populations? Sometimes. Most of the time it's confined to that front line area. Guess what, Ukraine? You've been doing that. You've been launching one-way UAVs into like freaking Moscow trying to kill Putin. How many times? Here's the reality of the situation. Russia's not going to give anything back. They're not going to give anything back. They're under no obligation to. They can continue to hold out. Ukraine can't do that. So what's Russia going to do? Ukraine isn't going to be able to join NATO. It's not going to happen. It was signed in a treaty. Yes, Russia violated the treaty, but it doesn't mean the treaty doesn't exist. When someone violates the Geneva Conventions, it doesn't mean everybody is no longer beholden to the Geneva Conventions. It exists. It's there. Everybody signed it. So, Ukraine's not joining NATO. Ukraine's not going to get any of the land that they've lost back. Putin is under no obligation to pay for anything. He's under no obligation to give back any land. He's under no obligation to turn himself in to face war crimes. Why is he going to do that? Why would he do that? All right? Russia has most of the cards in this situation. They started the war. They have successfully taken land that they wanted. All right? It sucks, everybody. It sucks, world. But it's the reality that you're in. Okay? We can continue to fund Ukraine left and right and give them billions and trillions of tax dollars, and they will still lose in the long run. Unless all of NATO gets involved or just the US. And if that happens, everybody's gloves come off, and we don't want that. That is an escalation that nobody wants. So every one of you opening your fucking mouths saying NATO is going to do it. NATO is going to accept Ukraine. NATO is going to seize the day. America sucks. We're turning our back. We are trying to stop another global conflict from truly erupting. Because if Russia gets involved, China and Iran and a bunch of their buddies are going to get involved, and it is going to be the worst thing that anyone has seen on the planet. So shut the fuck up. Holy cow. Gosh damn it, you guys. So many people on the left and the right are so busy gobbling the cock of their ideologies that they're not taking the time to go, oh, you know, maybe if more people got involved, that would be a bad thing. Maybe trying to find a way to get everybody to stop fighting is a good thing. Yes. All right? Yes. Ukraine is going to have to concede a bunch of shit. But if they want to continue to exist and not fight, that's going to be the situation. It sucks for Ukraine. It really does. That's how war works. Ukraine's lost. All right? We could spend the money to help them continue to fight, or we could spend the money to help them rebuild and maybe build better defensive stuff, so that this doesn't happen again. Zelensky's ego is big. Appeasement? Okay, James. All right, James. Sorry, I'm hot. All right, and I know a little bit about this. Let's talk about this. We're talking about appeasement. Under what obligation, other than annihilation of every member of the Russian political regime, is there a path to solution? Is there an actual path? What obligation does Russia have to give back land other than out of the goodness of their hearts? They're already there freaking fighting and killing Ukraine. They don't care. So they're not going to give any land back. They're not going to pay for anything. They're already there fighting. They don't care how much it costs. To them, it's pretend money. They just print more of it. Sound familiar? All right? Putin's not going to turn himself in. Nobody's going to go and extract him. We're not going to go in and do things like we did with Saddam Hussein. A long-term war with Russia is bad for everybody. So continuing to fund Ukraine to keep fighting is just wasting money because Ukraine will lose. So you're saying appeasement, but we're actually talking about the reality of fucking war, James. What do you know about it? Because I'm a vet. I know a little bit about it. I know what the repercussions are. I've seen it really, really, really fucking up close. Have you? Freaking appeasement. Get a clue. Holy shit, dude. Oh. Andy, if Putin can come, so did all of you. You are appeasement. So did all of Europe after World War I. Yeah, and what happened? 15 minutes after World War I, the Germans came back and they did the exact same thing. Did the exact same thing. It wasn't until when everybody just left. It wasn't until Putin can try to invade. He invaded Ukraine because Ukraine isn't part of NATO. He made that decision. Ukraine can't become a part of NATO, or Russia will escalate with all of NATO. And then that gets China involved, and it gets Iran involved. And that's not good, because Russia and China and Iran are all kinds of buddy-buddies. We already know that they're buddy-buddies with North Korea. North Korea's there. Okay? This isn't about concessions. It's not about appeasement. Okay? It is about stopping a war from continuing and escalating. It is a no-win solution. Wars are no-win solutions. Even when the U.S. went into Afghanistan, all right, it was a no-win solution. All it was trying to help the Afghanis to try to build up. And then Joe Biden blew that. All right? He abandoned Afghanistan. Afghanistan, 25 years of trying to build them up so that they could sustain themselves, is gone. Right? We haven't stepped foot in Ukraine in an official capacity. Unless we go into Ukraine, and the moment we do, Russia pulls off the gloves. So we're not going in. We're not going in. It's not going to happen. Okay? There will be only Ukraine can fight in Ukraine, or it will escalate because of the nature. So you've got to take Ukraine joining NATO off the table. You've got to take Ukraine getting nukes off the table. It's not going to happen. If that happens, Russia's going to use nukes. They will nuke Ukraine before Ukraine gets any of their nukes back. All right? So let's just take it off the table. Russia's not going to pay for anything. Russia might. You might be able to get Russia to return prisoners and kidnapped individuals. That's the only thing that I can see maybe happening. I can see Russia and Ukraine no longer advancing. That could be a concession. Ukraine's not going to come out on top of this. And that's what Zelensky wants. That's what everybody in Europe and the UN and on the left want. I'm not really sure what Republicans want, except for the fact that I feel like most of the time they're so busy gobbling on the side of Trump that they don't think about the reality. Like, this isn't, it's good that the war stops. This situation isn't good, though. So if somebody can come up with a realistic set of solutions, all right? Somebody can come up with a realistic set of demands, because that's what it's going to be. You're going to be demanding things from Russia to which Russia has no obligation. Zelensky wants Putin out, either dead or in jail. That's probably not going to happen. And I don't necessarily know that that's even a good thing, because Russia's got some really weird political rules and leadership rules that if he's gone, like that whole like leadership conglomerate, whatever they have going on, their Politburo, because their politics are really weird. Like any one of their generals could potentially have control over like nuclear and chemical weapons, and that could be bad. So you saw what happened in Benghazi. It would be way worse than what happened in Benghazi when Gaddafi was gone. Yeah, I'm not allowed to touch any of my guns, bud. It 100% is, Tarek. So, where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? All the interweb, super mouseketeer freaking geniuses of geopolitics. As someone who's been in war zones, as someone who has served for a long time, and experienced a lot of things and seen how quickly things can change and seen how quickly a poor decision can change geopolitics, what do you actually think is a solution that could lead to peace, that like that's just it. Everybody's complaining that Trump is siding with Russia, and I don't even like Trump that much. Everybody who's like subscribed to my channel and has been on any of my live streams before, they know I'm pretty critical of Trump. All right? I think he's better than the other person we could have voted for, but I'm critical of Trump. He's not a conservative. Like Ukraine's going to have to take the L in terms of what they have already lost. It's going to have to happen. It's the only way. The best thing that can happen is Ukraine takes the L. Ukraine can maybe make some new treaties with countries like Poland and Germany. Not going to be NATO. It can be some other, they could call it some other, Western Bloc states, whatever they want to call it. So they can come up with some other kind of treaty, some other military conglomerate, whatever, that stands specifically against Russia. Build up the defensive nature of Ukraine, because we know that Russia went in and they basically, like, the land that they have, they basically took in like the first 90 days. That was it. Like it was that fast. And now we know that, like, you can see in the news, they're down to, they've lost a bunch of jets, they've lost a bunch of people, they're using mercenaries, they're using North Koreans. They've got a couple of different things. It's still some kind of AK variant, Corey. So the best thing that can happen is then NATO, the UN, those countries that ally themselves with Ukraine, they can help build up Ukraine and the defensive measures of Ukraine. Hold on. Sorry, I've had a bunch of family texting me for help with stuff. One of the big thing, James, that they're asking for, is they want Putin to face war crimes. I don't think Trump is interested in anything that the UN says, because the UN also says that Hamas isn't a terrorist organization. The UN won't recognize things like that Iran and Hamas have done as bad. The UN doesn't necessarily care about the US's best interests. Now, if you're not part of the US, then that's fine. I don't care what your opinion is in regards to the US, and us not signing things that don't have what the US's best interests in. Whether Putin needs to go or not, Andy, that's Putin has been in his position. It changes. Whatever position he's in is the position that has the most power. I agree. Everyone agrees Putin needs to go. But until Putin, all right, wants to go, he's not going to be put out of power, because Russia is the third or fourth largest threat in the world to the world. So, like, him disappearing, short of him having actual cardiac arrest, and it's confirmed that he just like had a heart attack in his sleep, like, Putin's not going anywhere. All right. So there's two ways to deal with someone like Putin. Right? There's two ways to deal with a gangster like Putin. You can fight him. Everybody loses. Yeah, he'll lose in the end, especially against somebody like us. But at what cost? Is the return of investment. And I know that sounds terrible. Like, is losing 150,000, 200,000 American soldiers, is that worth Putin being ousted? No. 100% no. Is finding a way to deal with Putin, and I don't mean deal with him in the sense like getting buddy-buddy with him, but finding a way to just be on at least tolerable like ground with him, yeah, where nobody dies, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's what geopolitics is. That's what regular political negotiations is. It's compromise.